Egghead is considered one of the best arcs in One Piece. It has many cool lore details for the story, like us learning Kuma's backstory and Bonnie coming to terms with that, and even the origin of how devil fruits came to be, and many more. And many great fights, with one of them being Zoro versus Rob Lucci. Although the fight happens for the most part off screen, with us cutting back to the action now and again, many people have varied opinions on Zoro and Rob Lucci's fight during Egghead, with some even completely not understanding or misinterpreting the feats and what was presented to us in the story between the two. Some believe that Zoro was indeed just the flat out better and stronger combatant than Rob Lucci was, while others think that Lucci was actually the stronger one. And in today's video, I want to go over the entire fight of Zoro versus Rob Lucci and explain not just the story behind it, but also people's common misconceptions, agendas, and give a more unbiased, honest view of the fight and who was actually the stronger and better combatant. But before the video starts, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and comment if you would like to stay up to date with my videos. And don't forget to check out my channel memberships if you'd like to further support me in what I do. And with all that being said, let's get into the video. So Egghead takes place from chapter 1058 to 1123, and within this arc we get quite a lot of moments with Zoro and Rob Lucci respectively. But first, let's go over Rob Lucci's fight with Luffy, as this is going to be an important comparison. Chapter 1069 is the start of their battle, and Lucci and Luffy are shown being able to clash against one another, albeit briefly. Lucci is able to keep up with Luffy and can dodge attacks from him while at one point being off guard, but more times than not, Luffy is able to press Lucci and was able to get him to stop fighting after hitting him with a Dawn Rocket. And in the anime version, it's shown more clearly that Lucci definitely isn't on Luffy's level, as he wasn't really able to land a hit on him, despite Luffy goofing around and not taking the fight seriously. From this point onwards, we don't see Lucci fight again until chapter 1076, where he works alongside Luffy to fight off S-Bear, and he's shown to be pretty much equal to a Gear 4 Bounce Man Luffy, being able to move equally with him and launching an attack alongside Luffy that was also able to stagger the Seraphim, which should be Oda trying to show us that Lucci should be around the level of Egghead Gear 4 Bounce Man Luffy. Then on chapter 1091, we finally get the first physical interaction between Lucci and Zoro, and there are a few important things to note. First thing is that Lucci believes that since Kizaru arrived on the island, they both would be able to take on the Straw Hats. I personally take this as a knowledge claim, as Lucci isn't completely knowledgeable on the Straw Hat Pirates' capabilities. Like, for example, he doesn't know that Zoro has Asura or King of Hell, as he hadn't used either up to this point. He isn't aware of Sanji having awakened his Germa genes, or Robin's Demino Fleur, or even the upgrades Frankie has gone through since Enies Lobby. So I wouldn't take his statement at face value. Zoro also shuts this down by telling Lucci that he doesn't know them very well, and in an alternate translation where Zoro says he should know not to underestimate them, and then another saying that he's underestimating them too much. When it comes to these translations, they both show that Lucci's arrogance in the fact that he believes that he and Kizaru alone can solo the Straw Hats, but as we see later in the arc, this just isn't true. Fast forward to the first cut of the fight that we see in the manga, both Zoro and Lucci are going pretty relative, with Zoro also using King of Hell, which is indicated by the flames on his sword. It is important to note that King of Hell does amp Zoro, as in his Viver card it's stated that he's using Conqueror's Haki and coding it on his sword, which, as I said, is indicated by the flames on his sword. In the anime version of the fight, during the first cut that we see, it's also the same thing, with both of them fighting each other pretty evenly. Luffy does offer to help against Lucci, but Zoro declines. After assessing how Lucci was performing against him, Zoro then tells him that if they're fighting evenly, then he doesn't have a chance of actually fighting Luffy, with Lucci saying that Zoro is the definitive number 2 of the crew. Keep in mind, in Zoro's Viver card, it's stated that when he's in a real battle, he gets serious and starts to show his true strength, but we know that when he deactivates King of Hell, he's holding back. During the second cut back to the fight, they're still going toe to toe and momentarily pause due to the presence of Saturn. Fast forward to the third cut back, we see Zoro and Rob Lucci are still battling it out, but Zoro is fatigued at this point and asks Lucci if they can finish the battle now. However, Lucci responds and says that's something that the eventual victor says, with Zoro saying he says that as if he's the one in control of how long they fight. There's an alternate translation where Zoro calls Lucci tough, but says he has to hurry and end their battle, with Lucci saying only the winner can talk like that, with Zoro saying it almost sounds like Lucci thinks he's in control of this fight. This translation more clearly shows Zoro is the one leading the fight and can end it if he really wants to, and is just indulging Lucci. Whereas the first translation, it isn't as immediately apparent with Zoro's first line. And then when we cut back to the fourth and final cut of their battle, Lucci is able to disarm Zoro of one of his swords, and Sanji, who is annoyed at the fact that Zoro is still holding up the entire crew from leaving Egghead, says that Zoro is putting the entire crew in danger and calls him a liability. This makes Zoro angry and lock in to where he easily dodges Lucci's hand pistols, grabs the sword that Lucci just disarmed him of, and hit him with a 3-sword style leopard hunt or Hahuva spot hunt. This one-shots Lucci and makes him unable to fight back or even move, with Lucci also breathing cold air. Zoro thinks that the fight isn't over as Lucci is still standing, but Jinbei sees this and tells Zoro that he straight up won the fight given these circumstances. So that was the general recap of the fight. So now let's get into some of the misconceptions I see people have with this fight. The first thing is Lucci is stronger than Zoro. This just isn't true, as what we see with the fight, both of them are going completely relative, with neither side necessarily having the upper hand on the other. Lucci was able to disarm Zoro of his swords, but this is seemingly the only time he was able to do this. But Zoro was also very fatigued when this happened. Also, not to mention that Zoro implies a few times that he's been holding back on Lucci, which there's evidence for. Within their verbal interactions, Zoro basically tells Lucci that he can end their fight whenever he wants. And we see this at the end of the fight where Zoro locks in and one-shots him with leopard hunt. So no, Lucci is not stronger than Zoro. The next misconception I've seen is Zoro wasn't using King of Hell. While yes, he did stop using it after their first on-screen back and forth, he did initially use it during that period. He just deactivated it afterwards. As I said previously, King of Hell is an amp as Zoro's coding his swords in Conqueror's Haki, and Lucci was indeed able to go blow for blow with him. In the anime's version, this is the same, but it's just made more apparent given the longer screen time that we see of this particular section. Another misconception that I see of this battle is Zoro could have one-shot at Lucci whenever he wanted. My response to this is both a yes and a no, and I'll explain. The reason Zoro one-shot Lucci in the first place was because Sanji was talking shit to Zoro and not only said that he was endangering the whole crew, but that he was a liability. Because this was coming from his rival Sanji, and the fact that his strength is being looked down upon by said rival, this forced Zoro to immediately stop messing around and lock in to one-shot Lucci. As we clearly see during the fight, Zoro stopped using King of Hell. Even when he was, him and Lucci were still pretty equal. So it's safe to say that Zoro was still holding back on Lucci, and him deactivating it showcases this even more. That's really all of the main misconceptions that I've seen regarding this fight. So now I'll go over the statements for both Lucci and Zoro individually, as well as regarding this particular fight. So as for Lucci, he doesn't really have any particularly notable statements regarding himself, except for a few things. In his Reaver card, it stated that he adapts to the needs of his mission while not compromising his ruthlessness or dedication, and that he was able to hold off Zoro and delay the escape of the Straw Hats. There's also other stuff like his finger pistol being enhanced from him awakening his double fruit, and that because of that, this is what allowed him to swiftly defeat Sentomaru. And that's really it for him. And as for Zoro, I already addressed a few of his personal statements. The one I didn't address, as I wanted to save this for last, is of his fight against Rob Lucci. It stated in his Reaver card that even against CP0 agent Rob Lucci, Zoro held his own. So this statement does say that Zoro was equal to Rob Lucci during Egghead, and this would include him using King of Hell and him holding back throughout the fight. And that's really all there is to talk about in regard to this. So yeah, in conclusion, Zoro and Rob Lucci fought evenly during Egghead. While Zoro was holding back, neither him or Lucci were stronger than one another, and once Zoro actually locked in, he one-shot Lucci very badly. So I hope this helps. Thank you all for watching the video, and don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed. Also, don't forget to become a member of the channel, as again, you get cool perks, and it helps support me even more than you already do. Also, shout out to all of my channel members so far, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.
What you must do now is ponder its significance.